Steve Harvey was in the middle of his signature laugh, head thrown back, hand on his chest, when something made him stop cold. A woman in the third row was holding up a handwritten cardboard sign. Not the usual happy birthday or we love you Steve signs. This one had just 4 words written in shaky black marker. My son is dying. The studio fell silent. The cameras kept rolling, but everyone could sense that something was about to break through the polished veneer of daytime television. It was Thursday, September 7th, 2023, at the Family Feud studios in Atlanta. The Thompson family from Ohio was competing against the Martinez family from California. The energy had been electric. Steve was in rare form. The families were quick-witted, and the audience was fully engaged. But now all that stopped. Steve Harvey walked to the edge of the stage, shielding his eyes from the bright lights to see the woman more clearly. She was in her mid-50s, wearing a simple floral blouse, her hands trembling as she held the sign higher. Next to her sat a teenage boy, thin, pale, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Ma'am, Steve said gently into his microphone, can you stand up for me? The woman stood slowly. Her name was Carol Bennett, and the boy next to her was her son, 16-year-old Tyler Bennett. What's your name, sweetheart? Steve asked, his voice stripped of all performance. Carol, she said, her voice shaking. Carol Bennett. And this is my son, Tyler. Steve nodded. Carol, I saw your sign. Can you tell me what's going on? Carol's eyes filled with tears. The entire studio, 200 people, was holding its breath. Tyler has stage 4 brain cancer, Carol said, her voice breaking. The doctors gave him 3 months. That was 2 months ago. She paused, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. He wanted to come here more than anything. He said watching Family Feud with me is the only time he forgets he's sick. The audience gasped. Several people in the front row were already crying. Steve Harvey, the man who had built a career on quick wit and perfect comedic timing, stood completely still. Then he did something that defied every rule of television production. Stop the show, Steve said clearly into his microphone. Stop everything right now. The theme music cut out. The producers in the booth looked panicked, but Steve's authority was absolute. Steve walked off the stage, down the steps, and directly to Carol and Tyler's seats in the third row. He knelt down in front of Tyler, looking the boy directly in his eyes. Tyler, Steve said softly. How you doing, young man? Tyler looked up. His face was gaunt, his eyes circled with exhaustion. But when he spoke, his voice was stronger than anyone expected. I'm okay, Mr. Harvey, Tyler said. I'm just really happy to be here. Steve felt his throat tighten. Tyler, I need you to know something. You're not just a member of the audience today. You're family. And family doesn't sit in the audience. Family comes up on stage. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Steve Harvey helped Tyler to his feet. The boy was unsteady, his mother immediately moving to support him, but Steve gently took Tyler's other arm. We're going up there together, Steve said. All 3 of us. The studio erupted in applause as Steve, Carol, and Tyler slowly made their way to the stage. But this wasn't the usual game show applause. This was something deeper, respectful, emotional, raw. When they reached center stage, Steve addressed the 2 competing families. Thompson family, Martinez family. I need to ask you something, Steve said. Would you mind if we pause this game? Because Tyler here just taught me what courage really looks like, and I think we all need to hear his story. Both families immediately agreed. The Martinez grandmother was already crying. The Thompson father stepped forward and shook Tyler's hand. You're braver than any of us, son, he said quietly. Steve turned to Tyler. Tell me about yourself. What do you love? What makes you happy? Tyler smiled, a real smile that transformed his thin face. I love baseball, Tyler said. I was a pitcher before I got sick, and I love Family Feud. My mom and I watch it every night after my treatments. When I'm throwing up or can't sleep, she puts it on and, I don't know, it makes everything feel normal for a little while. Carol was crying openly now. He never misses an episode, she said. Even on his worst days, he asked me to turn it on. Steve felt something break open in his chest. He'd been doing this show for years, had met thousands of people, But Tyler's quiet strength was something else entirely. "Tyler," Steve said, "I want to do something. I want to play a round of Family Feud just for you. You're going to be on both teams. Every answer you give, every point you score, every laugh we share, that's yours to keep." The audience stood and applauded. But Steve wasn't finished. He walked over to the Family Feud board and looked at his production team. "Give me a custom question," he said. "Something for Tyler." Behind the scenes, Steve made a decision that would define not just this moment, but his entire legacy as a host. The producers scrambled, and within seconds, a new question appeared on the board. Steve turned to Tyler with a smile. "All right, young man. We surveyed 100 people. Top answer on the board. Here's your question. Name something that makes someone a hero." Tyler didn't hesitate. "Love," he said clearly. "Loving people even when it's hard." The studio fell silent. Then Steve Harvey did something no one expected. He walked over to Tyler and wrapped him in a hug. A real hug, not a performance. He held this 16-year-old boy who was fighting for his life, and he whispered something the microphones didn't pick up. But those who were close enough said later that Steve told Tyler, "You are the bravest person I've ever met, and I'm going to make sure the world knows your name." When Steve pulled back, there were tears streaming down his face. Tyler just gave a number one answer, Steve announced to the studio. Because that's exactly what a hero is. Someone who loves people even when it's hard. And Tyler here has been loving his mama, his family, and everyone around him while fighting the hardest battle any of us can imagine. Steve turned to the audience. "How many of y'all have been touched by cancer?" Nearly every hand in the studio went up. "That's what I thought," Steve said. "Tyler, you're not alone in this fight. Not even close." But this is the moment no one in the studio, and no one watching at home, ever saw coming. Steve Harvey took off his suit jacket, the same jacket he wore for every taping, the one that had become part of his television persona, and wrapped it around Tyler's thin shoulders. "Tyler," Steve said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "I want you to keep this. And every time you wear it, I want you to remember that you've got an army of people praying for you, rooting for you, and believing in you." Tyler looked down at the oversized jacket, then back up at Steve. "Why would you do this for me?" he asked quietly. Steve's answer became one of the most quoted responses in television history. "Because somebody believed in me when I had nothing," Steve said. "Because your mama deserves to see her son smile. And because you, young man, just reminded all of us what really matters in life. Not points on a board, not winning games, but showing up for the people we love, even when it's hard." The studio audience was openly weeping now. But Steve wasn't done. He turned to his producers. "I want both families to play together for Tyler. Every dollar we win today goes to cancer research in Tyler's name, and I'm personally matching it dollar for dollar." The two competing families immediately came together. The Thompson grandmother hugged Carol. The Martinez children high-fived Tyler. What had been a competition became a community. For the next hour, they played Family Feud unlike it had ever been played before. Steve asked questions. Tyler gave answers, some on the board, some not, but all of them met with thunderous applause. When Tyler said his favorite thing to do with his mom was just sit with her, the entire studio stood up. By the end of the episode, Tyler had answered 5 questions. His answers weren't always conventional, but they were honest and beautiful. Name something that never runs out. Tyler answered, hope. Name something people should do more often. Tyler answered, tell people they love them while they still can. Name something that makes life worth fighting for. Tyler answered, tomorrow. Because you never know what good thing might happen tomorrow. When it was over, Steve knelt down next to Tyler one more time. Tyler, I want you to have my personal number, Steve said, handing him a card. I want you to call me anytime. When you're scared, when you're tired, when you need to remember that you matter. You call me. Tyler took the card with shaking hands. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. This was the best day of my life. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. When the episode aired 6 weeks later, the response was seismic. The clip was shared over 80 million times in the first 72 hours. But more importantly, it sparked a movement. The hashtag Tyler's Army trended worldwide as people shared stories of their own battles with cancer, their own loved ones who were fighting. Donations poured in. not just for Tyler's medical expenses, but for the Tyler Bennett Foundation, which Steve announced he was creating to support families facing pediatric cancer. But the most beautiful part happened off camera. Tyler Bennett fought his cancer for 8 more months. He underwent experimental treatments partially funded by the donations that came in after his Family Feud appearance. He celebrated his 17th birthday. He went to his senior prom. He pitched one more baseball game, a charity event organized in his honor. And every single week, Steve Harvey called him. Sometimes they talked about baseball, sometimes about life. Sometimes Steve just told him jokes until Tyler laughed. He became like a second father to me, Tyler said in an interview 3 months after the episode aired. He reminded me that my life still mattered, even if it was going to be shorter than I wanted. On March 14th, 2024, Tyler Bennett passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by his family. He was wearing Steve Harvey's suit jacket. Carol Bennett later shared that in Tyler's final days, he told her, "Mom, I'm not scared, because I know I mattered." Steve Harvey showed me that on TV, in front of millions of people. And I want other sick kids to know they matter too. At Tyler's funeral, Steve Harvey delivered the eulogy. He spoke about courage, about love, about a 16-year-old boy who taught a studio full of adults what it really means to be alive. Tyler didn't lose his battle with cancer. Steve said, his voice breaking. He won something bigger. He won the knowledge that his life had meaning, that his courage inspired millions, that his love changed the world. The Tyler Bennett Foundation has since raised over $5 million for pediatric cancer research. It provides financial support, emotional counseling, and, most importantly, experiences for children fighting terminal illnesses. We take them to ball games, concerts, TV shows, Carol Bennett explained in an interview. Because Tyler taught me that life isn't measured in years. It's measured in moments that make you forget you're sick. Moments that remind you you're still alive. Steve Harvey keeps a photo from that day in his dressing room. It's not a posed shot. It's Tyler wearing Steve's jacket, smiling that real smile, holding his mother's hand. That day changed me, Steve said in a later interview. Tyler reminded me that my platform isn't about entertainment. It's about connection. It's about showing people they're not alone. It's about taking off your jacket and giving it to someone who needs warmth more than you do. The Family Feud episode featuring Tyler Bennett has been viewed over 150 million times across all platforms. But the real victory isn't in the view count. It's in the thousands of messages from families who said Tyler's courage gave them hope to keep fighting. Today, Carol Bennett works with the foundation, speaking at events and supporting other families facing pediatric cancer. She still watches Family Feud every night. Not because it's easy, but because it reminds her of the best day she ever shared with her son. Tyler wanted to come to Family Feud to forget he was dying, Carol says. But what happened instead was that Steve Harvey reminded him, and reminded all of us, what it really means to be alive. Steve Harvey asked Tyler, what makes someone a hero? And Tyler gave an answer that revealed the deepest truth about heroism. That sometimes it's not about strength or victory. It's about loving people even when it's hard. It's about showing up even when you're afraid. It's about making every moment matter because you never know which moment will be your last. Tyler Bennett went to Family Feud to watch a game show. Instead, he taught millions of people how to live. And Steve Harvey, who thought he was just hosting another episode, learned that the most important thing you can do with a platform is use it to tell someone you matter. Your life matters. And I see you. If this incredible story of courage and compassion moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that their struggle matters and they're not alone. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone chose honesty over appearance? Let us know in the comments.